There are two tales waiting for you, told one after the other by an odd set of two. So prepare yourself, dear one, because this is Drops of Darkness.
Welcome to our show. I'm not sure if you can tell by my voice, but I'm sick. We've been talking for a while about letting you all get to know us as the creators, though, and I figured what better time to start than when I have one foot in a fever dream. So, hello, I'm Anodyne, and for those who don't know, along with narrating stranger stories each week, I also write stranger stories each week. It is definitely a challenging feat as a writer, but it's one I've enjoyed immensely, and none of this would exist without my best friend and co-host Cameron consistently egging me on and daring me to be as creepy as I possibly can. Not only that, he sources the true stories featured on the show and narrates them as someone. Plus, he's the only reason there's any order whatsoever to the show's file system. We both appreciate you listening for the last 30 episodes, and we look forward to telling you many, many more stories. For today, I know I already mentioned a fever dream, and that pretty much sums up my contribution to this episode, which is a short story titled No One in the Cupboard. It's a little shorter than usual, but seeing as Stranger gets antsy if she doesn't get to come out and play. Sickness be damned, the show must go on. After that, Cameron has a true story from a production assistant on a very popular TV show, and it is a good one. So, let's get into it. Stranger and someone are waiting. I am Stranger, and I tell only fantasies. Whenever your world has a grip on your throat, I am there, waiting to unleash the monsters that sleep in my mind, so that they may remind you that you have sharp teeth and claws of your own. The cupboard door had a vicious squeak to it, but it was still the best hiding spot in the basement, and Evie wasn't worried about making noise. Her sisters were all the way up on the second floor, and wouldn't look for her even if they noticed that she was gone. Which they probably wouldn't, she thought. But still, sometimes it felt nice to be alone by choice, instead of being alone in a room full of people who are determined to hate you. She climbed inside the warped wooden cubby, shutting her eyes against the frayed spiderwebs that stuck to her tear-soaked lashes. She settled into the corner and pulled the door shut. The rusty hinges let out their high-pitched shriek, announcing her arrival to no one. Now safely tucked away, Evie pulled her grass-stained knees to her small, heaving chest and cried. The hot streams of tears soaked into her jeans, and they left dark, salty splotches until her thighs were covered in sad little constellations. No one was in the cupboard before she crawled in, and no one was still there, watching as the girl cried in the dark. Between Evie's shuddering breaths, she heard a soft scuttle near her feet, but she didn't pull them away. "Who's there?" she asked, her voice thick from crying. "No one? Is that you?" "Yes. Are you still afraid of me, Evie?" Evie sniffed and wiped her dripping nose on the cuff of her sweater. "No, not this time." "Good, because you are still not the right size to be food." A thin strand of dim light from the stairs slipped through a gap in the cupboard door, and Evie watched the finger-length spider crawl into it. Evie knew enough about spiders to know that no one was an unusual kind. It was the eyes mostly that gave it away. And out of all the ones that spiders don't usually have, the big blue one in the socket where the abdomen should be, that one scared her the most the first time she saw it. The rest, well, they just looked like regular spider eyes, shiny and round and black that flashed a blue-green. They were just everywhere, and that wasn't nearly as frightening. Like little jewels, they dotted no one's body and legs, and glittered as he crawled into Evie's outstretched hand. "Have you thought more about my question?" "Yes. I don't kill them because it's wrong to kill people, even if they hurt you." "And they do. They do hurt you. I've watched them. I couldn't see very well at first, so I took this, and now I can see you wherever you are. I can take other things too. You said I cannot bite them, but the cat has fine claws. I could take them and scratch, or I could give them to you. You do not fear my web, even as it adorns your face. I could give you things, tie them to you so that they are yours. In her cupped hand, Evie felt no one start to spin a web, offering different things each time a new thread was anchored to her skin. The beak of a raven, the teeth of a dog, even a fang of a spider since he had two, so one to spare. I don't want to kill them and eat them because I am not a spider, Evie said, and I don't want to hurt them. What do you want, Evie? I just want to grow up and not be here anymore. I want that too. Evie thought for a moment while the web between her fingers grew thicker. Then she asked the spider a question. Why do you want to help me? Because you are still not the right size to be food, but if you kill and eat like a spider, you will shed your skin and grow big enough to be eaten, like your mother and father are. My mom and dad. Evie didn't want to be in the cupboard with no one anymore. She tried to flick the spider off her hand, but he stayed where he was, comfortably latched onto the web that filled her palm. There was more scuttling near her feet, and a new set of eyes glittered in the dark, and then another, and then another. Yes, they are big enough. But we want to wait for you, Evie. And when we do eat you, you will become a part of us, and we will take you away. But we can't wait forever. If you let them keep you small, then your mother and father will feed us. Evie scrambled from her hiding spot, and since she couldn't dislodge the spider from her hand, she slammed her palm against the cold, cracked cement until she heard and felt a crunch. It took a kitchen knife and 20 minutes under hot water to free her hand from his web. Her parents told her to stop telling lies and to tell them what she'd really gotten into in the basement. And her sisters, for the rest of the evening, teased her relentlessly for her story about hungry talking spiders. Her mother and father didn't believe her then, and didn't believe her either when she came into their room that night, when she told them that they needed to run, after she heard the cabinet door squeak open in the basement.
Hello, everyone. In between stories, we like to highlight a cause that is worth our collective attention. For March and Women's History Month, we decided to highlight the National Women's Law Center. The NWLC has been at the forefront of the fight for gender justice for over 4 decades. They work tirelessly to break down barriers, advocate for policy changes, and create a more inclusive future for all. You can find out more and donate at www.nwlc.org or from the link on our website at dropsofdarkness.com. Now, back into the shadows we go. I am someone, and I tell only truth. Whenever something slithers through the barrier between worlds, I am there. Not to stop them, but to watch them and remind you of the countless terrors your kind has survived, all on their own. In January of 2020, I worked as a production assistant on the set of NBC's The Bachelor, Listen to Your Heart, Season 1. The show was filmed at the Hummingbird Ranch in Simi Valley, California. This location is over 100 years old and has what you would call a lurid history. There are reports of murders, drownings, and whatever else about the property. Additionally, the whole property is on the other side of the ridge where the Manson cult would conduct their meetings in a cave. There was a big rock behind the barn with a huge M scratched on it. The property contained the main mansion and a barn at the back of the property where we had the production offices set up. It also had several small casitas, like little 2-bedroom houses, on the outskirts of the property. It was rumored that Casita 5 was the most haunted of all the casitas. There were about 10 of them. After shooting was done, I was part of the team wrapping up the set, so there were a skeleton crew of people working around the clock to pack things up. So one night, we all get called to the barn to regroup. It's about midnight. Again, we were working in 12-hour shifts around the clock. I quickly run to the restroom in the barn, and when I come out, I put my walkie-talkie back in and hear everyone freaking out over the channel. I run to the production managers and the rest of the production assistants in the barn, and they're all clearly spooked and saying, "Did you hear that? That was insane." I asked what happened, and they tell me that what sounded like the shrieks of a dozen children echoed through the barn. I asked if it could have been a mountain lion because those had been spotted in the ridge surrounding the ranch. However, they told me that it sounded like dozens of shrieks and that it was coming from inside the barn, not outside. It was extremely weird because I was inside the barn just using the restroom and I didn't hear anything. The night wears on. We're assigned to go and pick up all of NBC's fire extinguishers from around the property and to leave the ones that belong to the property. We split up in groups of 3 to 4 because it's night, the mountain lion thing, and everyone is generally spooked because of the weird barn shrieking. I'm assigned to sweep the casitas with my coworkers who will call Lily and Amanda and look for the fire extinguishers. So we're going through the casitas one by one looking for fire extinguishers. It's 1 a.m. We go quickly through the first 3 together as a group. At Casita 4, Amanda wanders off up the path towards Casita 5, and Lily and I sort of slowly make our way towards Casita 5, just talking and not really making haste at all. We enter Casita 5. Amanda comes into the main living room from the side room and sees us enter. She says, "Did you guys check Casita 6 and come back for me?" "No, we just got here. You were ahead of us." She's confused. "Why did you leave and come back in?" she says. "We didn't. We just came in here." "Stop messing with me. We're not." "Then who was I talking to?" Apparently, when Amanda was in the side room, she heard someone walking around in the living room, and Amanda said, "Hey Lily, do you see any fire extinguishers?" And the voice replied, in Lily's voice, "No." That was why Amanda was so confused when we walked in. To this day, I don't think she believes that we weren't just pulling her leg. She refused to talk about it for the rest of the time it took to wrap up the set.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Drops of Darkness, which is written, voiced, and produced by Anodyne Vaughn and Cameron Helkuik. If you enjoyed your drift into the shadows, help keep the stories alive by sharing the show, leaving a review, and if you really want to earn the favor of these dark storytellers, tether yourself to their world by tapping subscribe. If you have a true paranormal story of your own that you'd like to be read by someone, you can make the offering to submissions@dropsofdarkness.com or through the form on our website. Until next time, dear one, and remember, when the darkness looks your way, hold its gate.